was going to make a video today, basically just showing some basic stuff on trucks and stuff. You know, shifting techniques and a couple things. I don't know how much time I'll have today to do this because I'm doing a bunch of other jobs at the same time, but this is mainly just a few pointers that some of the driving schools and books and stuff don't really tell you, but you'll figure out over time, or I can show you and make it a lot easier. But one of the things is just a really old international truck, but this one's a Fuller Road Ranger, 8-speed. You know, of course it's got the high and the low, but a lot of times when you notice whenever you go to go in gear, a lot of times that it won't actually go in gear. It'll just, you know, kind of bump. And the one time I want it to not do that is so there we go. I found a gear that it won't go in. So while the truck's running, I'll show you. So say you push in the clutch, and you go to put it in gear, like right there, it won't go into low. So instead of trying to go to other gears and make it run, just keep tension on the gear shift and ease out on the clutch and watch. See? Falls right in. That's all you gotta do. So hopefully it'll do it again. Let me find another gear it won't go in. See, there it is again. And another technique you can do is just leave it in neutral and just let up off the clutch really quick. And before the input shaft of the transmission quits spinning, put it in gear. So see, it won't go in low. So I'm going to let up off the clutch real fast and then push it in. See, right in. So, but yeah, the thing I like to do most though is, you know, when it won't go in gear, just ease up off the clutch just a little bit, and then it'll spin the input shaft. You know, there's no point in trying to, you know, go through other gears and stuff. It's just aggravating and time consuming. I ain't built up enough air pressure to show you that trick either. But that's one trick. I've got some more work and stuff to do, but I'll show y'all some other stuff here in a little bit. All right, we've got a 379 Peterbilt long nose. It's got a, let me see here, 3406A model Caterpillar in it. I was going to go over some of the steering components. Anyways, right off here is your steering box. Some's mounted in different spots, but this is your steering box. Your steering shaft will actually come, and on this one it's kind of odd setup. It'll come from your steering wheel down to here, and you've got gears in here, and also your hydraulic pump or power steering pump runs into here and actually makes it possible to turn this a lot easier. And then these are your Maxi Chambers. You can tell these Maxi Chambers are service chambers only because they only got one section, one spring, as your ears have got. And this will be considered a service chamber or a Maxi Chamber. But on your rear ones, which I'll show you in a minute, they're duals. And the back part is actually a park brake, and it's a spring. It's spring applied, so if you don't have air pressure to it, the spring actually pushes over the slack adjuster, and but then whenever you put air pressure on it, actually compresses that spring, which draws this back and releases your park brake. But since this is the front drive wheel, this is a service brake only. Right here is your slack adjuster, and whenever you push the brakes, it it's got a diaphragm in here, and whenever you hit the brakes, it'll feel this diaphragm, or put air behind the diaphragm and push this forward. So this rod will push forward, and this right here is called a clevis pin, by the way. There's a clevis. This is a clevis pin right here. This is a slack adjuster, and anyways, this will push forward, and I don't have a set of brakes tore down right now to actually show you the inside of what happens, but this is a slack adjuster, and this is the adjustment nut that you actually, you know, turn to make this slack adjuster move and, you know, bring your adjustment in. And there's a lock right here, so when you put your wrench on there, you got to actually push that lock in before you can turn this, because if you don't, the bolt won't turn itself. So, here in a minute I will show you a transmission brake and some other stuff. I would actually, I may still try to take you for a ride in one to show you how to float the gears and stuff like that, but just depends. They're doing a lot of construction work around here, so I'm kind of limited on space quite a bit, but we'll see. But let me see what else I can show you. Oh, and plus too, this is your air compressor, which actually compresses air and puts it in your air tank to work the air brake system. So it gets its supply air from the intercooler on this one because it runs through the air filter. So it sucks in clean air, compresses it, and then puts out the, let me see, this one's actually, yep, this is the air tube going to a tank. This compressor is water cooled, so this is actually a water line. This right here is a air compressor governor. What that does is whenever your air pressure, usually I think around 120 to 150, you can adjust them to whatever you want. Whenever you get up to about that much pressure, it will open a set of valves and just let this compressor, the pistons in there will still move, but it'll just let it cycle through until the air pressure drops, and then it'll start compressing and pushing air through the air line into the air tank. And that air tank's black, so yeah, there it is. You can see it. And they also have a drain valve back here, and it's a good idea to this one don't hold air pressure that well, but it's a good idea to drain your air tanks daily to keep the moisture out of them. So, alright, now we're back on the old International. I actually put a, well, took the power divider out of this truck and inspected it, and put a new main rear end in it, a new one. But anyways, I was going to raise the bed on this one, but I really ain't got time. But that's a power divider, and right behind that is your ring and pinion for the front axle. And here's your rear axle. And here's a new differential I put in the back. But the way this works is, normally your drive shaft goes straight through this rear end and goes to the back one. So this back one pulls at all times, and the front one, whether it depends on if you got the power divider locked or unlocked, and sometimes it's known as a differential lock. But if it's unlocked, then this axle won't do anything, and then this will be the only axle pulling. But if you lock in your power divider or a differential lock, then you know, both sets of differentials pull. And I'll show you what it looks like on this particular truck. Power divider lock. So right now it's out, so it means the only set of axles pulling is the main back. But if you engage it in, then you've got both sets of differentials pulling. And never engage or disengage that. If you're spinning, you know, if you're like in mud or snow and you're spinning, always stop and engage or disengage it. And that way you won't bust a power divider or a differential or spider gears or anything. Alright, here's a set of rear axles out from under a truck. So it, you know, it's a lot easier for you to see what's going on with it since they're out of the truck. But this also is a power divider, not near as big as the one down there because this is a lighter duty truck. But you know, you can see that the shaft runs straight through, and you know, of course, that drive shaft's not hooked to that rear end. But you know, so that's what I was telling you about. Is this shaft runs straight through, and the back set of axles pull all the time. And then whenever you put air to this actuator right here, there's a set of gears that drop down and run the pinion for this axle. Whenever you engage it, it just locks in a set of gears, almost like a transmission and a slider, and it'll couple them together so it actually turns this ring and pinion. But here is a park brake chamber, and this side is the park brake side. This side is the service side. So right now these brakes are locked, which means this big spring in here, it's a lot of pressure it pushes. I can't remember right off though how much it generates for us, but this big spring pushes this rod on this slack adjuster, which turns the S-cam and spreads your brake shoes out. So right here, a big green part is your brake shoe, and this is your brake drum. But So whenever you release your park brakes, you're actually applying air to this, and the air pressure compresses the spring, and it allows the slack adjuster to move back and releases your brakes. And then whenever you hit your treadle valve, your foot brake, you're actually sending air back through here, and this pushes against the diaphragm, and this will actually push your brakes again in the same direction that the park brake had it pushed, and it'll apply your brakes. You know, and the harder you hit it, the more air pressure goes to it, and the harder it applies. So, and next I'll show you how transmission brake works. Alright, this is a clutch off of a big semi-truck, and I don't know if you can see really well, but this is what they call a pull-type clutch, and you have a set of fingers on a bar that are in the transmission bell housing, and I'll show you what they look like in just a second. Anyways, whenever you push in the clutch, it actually pulls this throw-out bearing out, or release bearing I should say, and what that does is this whole clutch pack, there's a big bunch of springs in here, and it sandwiches two discs and a pressure plate in the center against the pressure, this clutch right here, and the flywheel in your input shaft. The transmission runs right through there. So kind of hard to explain. Anyway, this is the back side. So here's the clutch itself. So you got a hard surface right here, and then you got your first clutch disc, and you got the other pressure plate, and then there'll be another clutch disc behind this that runs against the flywheel. So your automotive style, they are a push type clutch, and they only usually have one disc instead of two. So if we move over here, you can see the transmission itself. This is your input shaft. You know, this is what your engine's actually turning. And right back here is a clutch brake. Now this clutch brake is a spline. You see that groove in the shaft? This clutch brake is splined to the input shaft. And the reason they say never to push your clutch all the way in unless you're completely stopping, because whenever you push the see if I can hold the camera and operate it too. So this is what your clutch hooks to, is your clutch linkage. So the place on the clutch, well, right here is where these hooks grab onto. So whenever you push in the clutch, it's actually pulling this out and releasing your clutch, so it's just free spinning in there, and it pulls all the pressure off these discs so they're not sandwiched together. But anyways, the problem is if you push in your clutch halfway, then this input shaft is still turning. So if you go to put it in gear, then you're going to hear a grinding sound if the truck's not moving. So whenever you push it in, whenever you push it all the way back, it will this little brake disc right here will get shoved against the housing of the input shaft, and it'll actually stop the input shaft from turning, because it sandwiches the this part, the release bearing, against here, and it just, you know, it sandwiches that against that, and it just stops the input shaft from turning. But the thing is, if you go to try to change gears going down the road, and if you're shoving your clutch all the way in, you're completely stopping the input shaft every time, and it's going to grind like crazy, and you'll be lucky to get it to go in gear. And two things it's going to do is it's going to, you know, of course, bad on your transmission because you'll be grinding like crazy. But it's also going to wear out your clutch brake, and it's going to wear out this input shaft housing, and then you'll eventually have to replace it. But whenever you're shifting, I like to float the gears. I have the best luck out of floating them. They're the smoothest, and it keeps all the wear and tear off your clutch linkage and stuff. Or if you do go to shift, never push your clutch in all the way, because, you know, like I say, you don't, whenever you're driving one of these trucks, the transmissions are non-synchronized. The reason they're non-synchronized is because they're stronger. You know, if you take out the, you know, if you was to put synchronizers in there, you would actually have to take out room for steel and stuff in the sliders. And kind of hard to explain. I'll try, when I get back to the shop, I'll try to explain how they work, you know, and why they're not as strong. But yeah, anyways, don't push in your clutch all the way if you're going down the road, because, you know, that's why you don't want the input shaft to completely stop, because you're trying to time the input shaft with the output shaft and match the speeds for whatever gear you're in, and it makes it impossible to do if the input shaft is not turning with the clutch pushed in. But Trying to think. All kinds of stuff laying around here, but a couple of steering boxes. So, like I say, that on your steering box, you know, that little right here is where your steering shaft hooks into, and then you know this one don't have the pitman arm on it, but this one does. So that's the pitman arm. Okay, here's another piece that's off the truck that's a lot easier to show and explain while it's off. But this is considered an air dryer for your air compressor for the air brakes. And whenever you hear a truck, you know, make a hissing sound probably every 5 to 10 minutes, if it's sitting a a truck stop or whatever, just idle and you hear it, the reason is their electric connector right here. Whenever a little bit of moisture builds up in the bottom of this valve will open just for a split second and blow all the moisture out of it. So, yep, that's an air dryer. Alright, here we are up in the cab of a 379 Peterbilt, long nose. One of my favorite trucks. Anyways, this is what I was telling you about. Now, this is the split shift. You know, this is your high and low lever, which you already know that. But, you know, of course, your park brake for your truck, your park brake for your trailer, you always pull them out to set them. You always push them in to release them. So, this seat over here is making a ton of noise. But also in your Jake brake, right there, Jacob's brake, usually have a, on this particular cat, this is a 3406A, so it can only have a 2-stage Jake brake, which on here they got it labeled as high and low. But all the way down's off, in the middle is low, all the way up's high. So this is off, and this is 1 stage, this is 2 stage. So the way it works is, you know, it's your engine brake. So whenever the piston's coming up and it's on its compression stroke, almost ready to fire, and if you got your Jake brake on, then you've got a slave cylinder coming out of your Jake brake housing. It's actually going to open the exhaust valve right before it fires. It's going to dump all the compression, and since it's a diesel, you know, you lose your compression, it's not going to fire. So anyways, on the Jake brake, you know, 3 things you have to have before it'll operate is, of course, you have to have your Jake brake on, you have to have your foot completely off the accelerator, and you have to have the clutch completely released. And you know, on this older style, if you turn on Jake brakes and let off the fuel pedal with the clutch out, even if it's in neutral, it'll actually, if you got it on the 2-stage, it'll actually stall the engine out. The newer ones, the computer won't let it. Once it drops below an idle, it'll kick the Jake brake out. But